Hello and guten Tag. It is a crisp autumn day and I'm in a place called Finsterwalde in Germany, where we're about to hop on a bus for 15 minutes, because the question we're asking today is, what is the largest vehicle ever made? Now, a lot of people will tell you the largest vehicle in the world is the Bagger 293. And the reason they say that is because it is the heaviest vehicle ever made. It's the largest in terms of mass. But it is not the largest in terms of sheer physical size. Because if you want the largest dimensions, the longest and the widest and that sort of thing, there is nothing that can beat what we're about to see. It is quite big. What we're looking at here is the Abraum Förderbrücke F60, or the F60 Overburden Conveyor Bridge. You know what? I think we're going to call it the F60. I'm just going to throw some numbers at you here. 79 metres tall, 502 metres long, and 760 wheels. By pure physical dimensions, it is the largest vehicle humans have ever made. Or in other words, this little beggar is bigger than the bagger. So, next question. What does your average F60 overburden conveyor bridge actually do? Well, as you may have worked out already, we are back in the world of massive mining operations. Now let's say you want to extract coal from under the ground. Then the first thing you need to do is remove the ground and dump it somewhere else. And that's basically the F60's job. At one end of the vehicle, there are two adjustable conveyor belt arms, and back when it was in operation, each of these would be attached to a specialist excavating vehicle, known in German as a bagger. The three vehicles would then move together up and down the mine on standard gauge railway tracks, effectively creating the weirdest train you've ever seen. Now, the baggers would be doing the actual digging, but they're going to have to dig through several layers of soil and rock before they get to the coal. So they dump all of that into the F60's conveyor belt system, which carries it all the way to the other end of the F60, where it finally gets spat out onto a spoil tip. And as you can see in this photo, the F60's rear end has 4 separate spitting out points. Technical term. Anyway, between 1969 and 1991, a total of 5 F60s were built, back in the days of the former East Germany. And while this particular one is now parked up as a static museum piece and hasn't actually moved for about 30 years, the other 4 are still out there working in German coal mines, helping to extract coal for the country's power stations. And just to clear something up, although they call it a bridge, it is also very much a vehicle at the same time, which you can tell because it has wheels, it has 2 onboard electric motors, and it can move quite a lot further than you'd expect from a bridge. Now, when I say it runs on standard gauge railway tracks, it actually runs on 6 standard gauge railway tracks, 4 for the F60 itself and 2 for its support vehicles. But if you gave it enough track, it can travel up to 6 kilometres before it has to stop. And the only reason it has to stop after 6 kilometres is because those electric motors are connected to an electric cable, and, well, that's how far the cable stretches. So admittedly, it is not the most manoeuvrable vehicle in the world. It can only travel as far as the track or cable stretches, whichever one is shorter. It can only move sideways, and it has a blistering top speed of, wait for it, 0.78 kilometres an hour. As a result, the F60s usually run on just a few hundred metres of track, partly because building 6 tracks is expensive, but also because if the vehicle ever needs to travel further than that, you'll have plenty of time to simply pick up sections of track from behind it and add them back in front of it before it gets there. So, final question. Why do they need such a monstrously massive machine? Well, the answer is, of course, efficiency. If you wanted to, you could do exactly the same job with dozens of smaller vehicles and maybe a few hundred employees. But if you've got an F60, you can do it all with one gargantuan vehicle and a crew of just 14. So that is the world's largest vehicle, a monster of efficiency. Except, I should probably mention, the main reason it needed to be so efficient in the first place is because the type of coal they were mining here is very inefficient, producing less energy per ton than any other type of coal, so you have to dig up more of it, not to mention it's more toxic. None of that changes the fact the F60s are an amazing piece of engineering. I just don't think it will be a bad thing when they're all parked up in a retirement home.
It's a ridiculous thing.
And if you'd like to visit this F60, a full guided tour like the one I did takes 90 minutes and costs 16 euros as of 2024. There are shorter and cheaper tours available as well, but for safety reasons you cannot access the F60 without a professional guide. And unfortunately, these tours are not really suitable if you have mobility issues or an extreme fear of heights. Meanwhile, the nearest railway station is at Finsterwalde, and there are buses and taxis from there. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.